Welcome back to the Business Transition Roadmap podcast. And I'm Elizabeth Ledoux here with Craig Sweeney. Craig, I am so happy that you are our guest today. And just a little bit of background on Craig. He is a serial entrepreneur. He is the founder of this groundbreaking AI Exit Navigator. And basically, we're going to learn more about it, but it's an operating system that's built to help guide founders and owners through this exit process that can be so complicated and hard to get your arms around. So he is a certified business coach. He is an experienced technical recruiter, an event leader. He's got so much background and knowledge. And he knows how to help build companies so that they can optimize themselves and be ready for strategic partnerships as they start to transition. So, Craig, hopefully that was a great summary. And if you'd like to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are today.
Sure. Well, yeah. Thank you, Elizabeth. It's a pleasure to be here. I've been looking forward to this, and we've been in discussion with your firm, and very excited to talk with you more in this podcast about that partnership. But yeah, I appreciate the introduction, and just a little. I can give you a little bit of a high level on kind of how we got to where we are here with Exit Navigator and what we're planning for the market with this. I'll make this as short as possible. I was in the private equity space about 15 years ago, and I came at private equity through a revenue optimization angle. So I would help portfolio companies for the private equity firm, everything from revenue, sales, marketing, et cetera. And we worked with many different types of companies. So we had everything from a medical transportation company to a D2C jewelry brand and beyond. And I enjoyed that tremendously. But go figure, I got out of that and I started my own company. So I started a fintech company, and through that for about 3.5 years. Had a tremendous time doing that and sold that to a strategic partner of ours. So that's kind of where I got a flavor for the exit process myself. And so there, certainly have some empathy, with what I've seen since then with other founders and leaders that are going through that process. After exiting my startup in the fintech space, I worked with some friends building sales teams and leadership teams in the embedded finance space, but really started advising companies on revenue optimization and growth strategies, and just knew, had a pretty big network in the founder space. And a lot of the people, because I'm of a certain age, I'm in my 50s now. So I've got friends and peers that have companies where they're thinking about, what's the next step for me? What is that? And, I saw so many founders, particularly in certain sectors, you work very hard 30, 35, 40 years growing their businesses and having really, incredible value to their families and their communities, but then walking away unsatisfied or not, leaving a legacy for their family and having some processes and outcomes that weren't ideal. And it's not a good feeling to see that. And so I started an advisory group company a few years ago called Badass Advisory Group. And with Badass Advisory Group, Elizabeth, what we did there was to help privately held companies and primarily boomer-aged founders with everything from pre to post-exit and beyond, including a lot of the stuff that you guys deal with, which is the family transition, the emotional perspective around the exit. And realized that if I'm going to help those folks, I really needed to put together good vetted, trusted teams of people. So it couldn't just be me that's looking at increasing revenue or EBITDA in front of that exit, or looking for a recurring revenue channel or a pricing a pricing adjustment, what have you. I needed to put together teams, and so and in particular, for those founders who, quite frankly, many didn't go to business school, many didn't know the M&A community or the private equity process, and how to come to a fruitful discussion insofar as with an investor, should that time come. And so I put together, meeting after meeting with folks, whether it was fractional executives, folks like yourself, tax strategists, sell side M&A people that would help in the process. And we were successful in helping founders get through that exit. And in many instances, get to a position where they enjoyed their business again, where they could say, you know what, I wasn't able to make it home for dinner, right? Or to make it to the family vacation or the kids' ball games or my grandkids' ball games. And now I can, because we put processes and efficiencies in place that would free me up to work, on my business as opposed to in it all the time, right?
Yeah,
These are men and women, quite frankly, Elizabeth, that that oftentimes we're still working in the field sometimes in their business, right, behind the wheel of a van or what have you, right? And so
absolutely.
it's a difficult proposition to try to extract them from this thing that's their baby, and the fact that it's so difficult for that founder that's been just entrenched in that business for 30 years to give up control and to say, I trust my team to pick up the slack and to do some of the things that I've been doing. So we were successful in that, and I really enjoyed that. And I looked at the investor community and started a marketplace with Special Ops, and it's a parent company of Exit Navigator, which is kind of taking what I did, is put together those teams and really kind of transforming that into a marketplace, whereby on one side of the Special Ops marketplace you've got these execution focused advisory and fractional folks, and on the other side you've got your founder community and your investor backed community. And in the middle of this whole thing, you've got the ecosystem people. So it could be the commercial banking folks or the sell side M&A folks or what have you, right? So
Right.
and that is fine and good. But when I look back on the founder space and look at the reticence, the confusion around the process and around whether or not we're ready to even entertain a discussion with all these people that are calling the founders on a daily basis. I mean, a lot of these folks are getting multiple calls a day from people asking if they'd be interested in selling their business, and quite frankly they don't know if they're ready. And so I looked at this and I said, based upon the fragmentation here and the fact that it's so ad hoc and the process is so disjointed, that if we could structure this from a technology perspective to be a platform or an operating system whereby we take it from an exit readiness score to all the way to the exit, it's going to be beneficial to the community. And that's what we put together here at Exit Navigator. And so I apologize for taking so long to go through that, but I thought it was important.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. So incredible, because we all know that typically for a business to go through a successful transition, right? And successful is the right price, the people are well cared for, the customers continue going forward, the community as well, as like everything works. That's success, not just money, but all the other parts. For that to happen, it does take kind of a cabinet of advisors. It's not one advisor typically that can get you from start to finish. So yeah, so this sounds like it sounds like this AI Exit Navigator helps an owner to not only understand their exit, but also bring together some of those people that they'll
Absolutely.
need.
Yeah, you're completely spot on. And what it really does, it's going to give you that exit readiness score, but it's going to also tell you, where the gaps are, and give you a roadmap that's going to, fill those gaps with not only, appropriate actions to take, but the people that can help you take those actions. So what we do within this operating system is plug in the appropriate advisory folks at the appropriate time along the process. And so within this framework of the operating system, we've got those vetted, trusted advisors that can come and step in at the appropriate time for that founder. So that's exactly right.
That's nice. So you've talked a little bit about this readiness score. Tell us a little bit about what kinds of things are you surveyed about as an owner or a transitioner? And yeah, just tell us a little bit about what that entails.
Yeah, I mean, so the majority of the EN score is really filling out information around 6 key strategic pillars. And so, you look at things like, revenue growth. You look at things like what is your revenue cycle? Are there dips? Are there, there's stagnation within the year? Or there's seasonality within your revenue cycle? What happens if that owner steps away from 6 months for 6 months? Would the business survive, thrive, et cetera? I mean, how does your process framework look like? Are there any gaps there? Do you have a process around sales, around hiring and onboarding? All these questions that go into that, and then certainly around the things that you do, Elizabeth, you and your team. In terms of, is your family on board? Are they aware of what's happening? Things that really play into whether or not, from a transition standpoint or a succession standpoint, they're ready to have the conversation, but certainly addressing those issues as we move forward. So we've got 15 core questions and then 10 follow-up questions within the EN Score survey. We did extensive surveying with not only founders, but exit readiness professionals, as well as investors within the various communities and sectors that we play in primarily. And then put that together with our AI engine that we've built. We've built an AI engine within Exit Navigator, as well as advisor intelligence engine, which does really tight predictive matching for the needs from the roadmap perspective to the correct advisors within the operating system. So we put that together with AI, and then came up with the EN score, which is proprietary across those 6 pillars and gives you a score from 0 to 100. Gives you a summary with a gap analysis in each of those 6 key pillars, and then automatically outputs a light touch roadmap that is AI driven.
Wow.
Yeah, and from there, what we do there, Elizabeth, is the founder then can then opt in to take the next step and schedule an Intel drop call with our team, where we fill in the nuances of that particular organization. So we look at their competitive set at that point. We look at their trends. We look at their product and service. We look at, all those things that maybe weren't grabbed throughout that initial survey that we need to fill out more of an extensive roadmap. So we can then deliver a custom roadmap with the tight advisory matches, and then get them set up with their dashboard. So yeah, it's a pretty
sounds amazing.
I appreciate that. It's been fun to do this, and it's taken a lot of time, but yeah, it's I think going to be valuable to the market.
Yeah, absolutely. And how long does it take then for somebody to go through this process? Say I'm an owner, I walk in, I want my readiness score, and I do that. How long does it take me until I can have this quote unquote roadmap so that I can get started with my advisors?
Yeah, so you'll take the survey, and the survey will take you about 10 to 15 minutes to get through the survey. You're immediately given your exit score, your gap analysis, and your light touch roadmap. So that's all immediate. You can then schedule the Intel drop meeting as soon as you're ready to do that. You can get on our calendar within a few days, and then we'll come back to you within a week with the custom roadmap that's AI driven, but also human influence. So our team provides the data that we plug into our system at that point. So it's a fast process to get involved with this and to kind of enter the system.
Yeah. So it's really quick, real easy.
It is. It's quick. I mean, that's what we looked at doing is to provide a digestible way for a founder, because there's so much reticence and so much confusion. We don't want there to be a big roadblock to enter the process, because it shouldn't be like pulling teeth. There should be a time in a founder's life that, is exciting. Yes, sure. There's mixed feelings. There's a lot of emotions around an exit, right?
Always.
But there should also be some excitement about this next chapter. And if you're not excited and you're not, you don't have that next chapter goal in mind, you don't know what you're going to do, you need to get ready for that. You need to process that. And I think you guys can help with that piece of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And if you're not ready emotionally for that next chapter, it might not be the right time. And that's okay too, right? And so, those are all important things to ask yourself, right? And ask your family.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you think in timelines, we think in timelines also. And yeah, I was thinking about doing a video that basically, even though you're doing your planning now, it doesn't mean that you have to transact now. It doesn't mean that you have to transact in the next 60 days or year or whatever. There are no rules along this journey. It's just getting started, helping yourself to get a foundation for what you really want to do, not only with the business and for others, but also for yourself, so that you can figure that one out. And yeah, and then get started trying to understand what are the steps that you have to take, and who, right? Who do you need to get with? Because it does take a team of advisors to do it well. And where do you find them? Because a lot of times some of the owners have either outgrown their advisors, even though they've been with them for a long time, or their advisors are not um, highly skilled in the area of a business transition. It's a different thing than running a business. Some advisors really focus on the running and the day to day. Others have more experience in this transitioning area.
Yeah, you're exactly right there. I mean, you see, many founders that have a heavy reliance on their, just for instance, on their accountant, for instance, or their bookkeeper, and so in that, many times, they could be fantastic people, right? But they may not be, like you said, an expert in succession or transition and the various aspects of that, right? How does taxation affect this? How what are you going to walk away with? What do you want to walk away with? I mean, there's so many factors that go into this thing that it does take a village, and you do have to have the right people on hand, and you need to be able to trust that those people are going to not only work together to guide you through the process, but have your back in the end. And so that's what we felt was really important, to not only have this framework, but to be able to plug the folks in that are experts in these individual subject matter pieces. And that's
Yeah.
that's why we're partnering on this, because you guys are expert in the family and succession transition. So
Yeah.
yeah, you're
Yeah.
exactly right. This is it's not an easy or something that you just kind of do in a weekend, certainly, but it should be your exit, right? So you should be able to. You built your business your way. You've worked hard throughout these years. Don't wing it at the end, right? So don't throw things to chance. And that's something that I think too many folks do is okay. Well, let's bite at the first offer, and you don't know who the buyer is. You don't know what's going to happen with your philanthropic efforts. You don't know what they're going to do with the team. And that's
It's pretty
something that,
frightening.
yeah, that's something that can lead to regret and to dissatisfaction, and a whole trove of issues. So yeah.
Absolutely. So, yeah. So, question for you is starting to think about, and that's a great segue into that. What are some key mistakes that you see founders making? And then with those key mistakes, how does your AI Exit Navigator help them to see them or to shift them?
Yeah. I mean, so when we look at the EM scores that we've gotten so far since we launched this, the primary driver of issues around the lack of preparation to exit, but really kind of how it can fall off within the deal, is the heavy reliance on the owner themselves. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, more than I'd say uh, twice as much as any other factor, we see that. And so, as you look to exit, I think the primary thing that you can do as an owner, especially if you're a single founder slash owner within your business, is to make sure that you're looking at a leadership team that can work with you through that transition and beyond.
Yep.
Make sure that you are looking at key people within your organization that not only you can trust, but you can trust to kind of take the mantle forward when you're gone, or even if you maybe even staying on through a recapitalization of that business.
Mhm.
That's very important. And our, well, certainly our EM score, will illuminate that. We'll talk to that gap in your readiness. And then throughout that custom roadmap, we're going to be able to identify the key players in your organization that you may be able to tap into, that will help you with that. So that's probably the number one driver of a bad exit situation that we see.
Yeah. Yeah. When I think of that, it's taking it all on yourself, holding all of it, thinking that you have to make all the decisions, and maybe that you even believing that you want to, because this exit is a team sport. You have to have a transitioner and you have to have a successor. There, you can't be a transitioner with no successor, whether it's a private equity group or whoever that might be. And so trying to figure out, especially if it's a family situation, using this as a learning opportunity for your incoming family members to understand about the tax and the estate and the financial well-being and what you might need and how much the business is worth. And all of those things are such a great opportunity that if you do it all yourself, that's water under the bridge that your successors never get to have a part of. So I
Well,
like the teaming of it.
so you're absolutely right. And if those things aren't illuminated with the entire team, that can lead to some big problems towards the end. And that's specifically that a time when you don't want them to arise and bite you in the butt, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And what we see with many founders is no different than, I think, what you see from a personality perspective within the physician space or what have you, where there's a lot of control, and that person has built this company because they've done it in the early stages, right? And there was
Yep.
their reliance upon themselves to build something significant and build something that is long lasting for themselves and their community and their family. And throughout time, that's only gotten, it's only mushroomed. And they've taken control of these various aspects of the business, and it's hard to pry that away. And it's a mindset that has to be switched, so that they can realize that in order to have control of the exit and have a successful exit, they're going to have to let go of certain things and let go of some knowledge that's in here, and get it down on paper in the systems that they need to have. And so, yeah, you're exactly right.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. And yeah, we do, Craig, it's a metamorphosis workshop that we have, and walking through. For an owner to be able to let go, they have to know what they're walking toward,
Right.
and hopefully get their head mindset right, shift around wanting to do that. So like moving, how do you shift your power, and where do you can't just not have any.
Yeah.
So what does it look like? What's the shift in power look like? What about the vision? Is it a mixed vision? Is it their vision? Is it your vision? Can't be all theirs, all yours. Maybe someday all theirs, but
Yeah.
it's been yours for a long time. And so how do you share the vision, and how do you have those conversations and relationships, right, with advisors? You're hoping that as you go through this transition, that your successors actually have the opportunity to create those relationships, with the important people that are going to help them go forward while you're maybe supporting and helping on that. So those are just three of the metamorphosis areas, but it's interesting to, as an owner, you need to know where you're going, because
Mhm.
otherwise you're not going to move. You just stay where you are.
Well, in order to be a good, I guess, a good steward of your business and your legacy, or a Sherpa, whatever name you want to put on it, I think it's important that as a founder, owner, leader, you need to be able to to do those things like that you just touched upon, and that's something that you should feel a responsibility to your team, to your family, but the fact is that many people have a hard time with that. And so, if we can, as a group within this whole operating system, bring you guys in, for instance, to help with that process, because it is such a mindset shift in many instances that people, have a hard time doing it on their own, right? And it's just like any other
Oh,
sort of mindset shift, right? And so, yeah, it's very important, to bring folks like you in.
it's absolutely, well, thank you. And I will say, because I'm walking through my transition right now, right, and doing this, and I do it for other people, but I also have somebody who helps me see,
Hmm.
right, external to me, what I'm doing, how I need to shift, how I need to behave, because you really can't see it. And it is hard to walk through this. It's hard for the successor. It's hard for the transitioner. And it definitely is a migration of behavior and other things, lots of feelings. So, and I think also just to keep in mind, and I like this AI Exit Navigator concept because it also has time as a component to it, because it takes years. People underestimate that they could just be like, "Oh, I'm working and the business is on, I'll run it until this point, and then somebody else is going to run it." And that's the one that I think is really tough on the entire team, the family, the business, is when you just decide, today I'm not going to be here.
Yeah, agreed. And the time factor is huge because, especially with a family transition, if you look at those situations where it could be that that person then decides they're not going to be here, all of a sudden, in 3 months, or it could be a situation where that founder, maybe mom, dad, whoever that founder is, has said, you know what, I think next year's we're gonna do our next chapter. We're gonna move on, and then but the successor, whether it be a child or something, has that in their mind, right? So, okay, so in 2026, we're going to take over and we're going to have a nice transition. And it doesn't happen, right? They
That's
they
right.
stay on, right? And so there's so many factors that can go into this that can, kind of
Absolutely.
muddy the waters, if you will. And
Well,
I and
yeah.
I look at your transition, Elizabeth, and we absolutely love Andrea, but as a successor comes along, it has to be difficult insofar as, okay, this is their baby, and here I'm taking, I'm going to take their baby, and it's got to be tough, right?
It's got to be tough. And yeah, and I'm trying to, it's funny because, yeah, in this example, I'm trying to help her take it,
Hmm.
right, and yeah, noticing when I have the feeling of not wanting to let go, and then how do I get around that, because that is not her fault, right?
Right.
That's me, that I have to figure that out, and then noticing when she's not interested in taking it, and then how do we navigate that, because maybe it's not in her wheelhouse, or she had a different vision of her life and her job. So all of these little nuances happen all the time, all
Yeah.
the time. But yeah, and more often than not, Craig, to your point, it's usually not the owner family member that just leaves. It's pretty much when the owner family member figures out the kids are going to be at the office every day, then they are like, "Oh, well, then I want to be at the office every
Right.
day
Right.
too, because why? I get to be with my kids and it's going to be great. And we're all a happy family."
Yeah.
And
Right.
so
And they're still getting involved
that's
when
right.
2 years down the
That's
road,
right.
and yeah, you're exactly right.
That's right. It's so funny. So yeah, so noticing, and that's all about behavior. So
Yes.
hey, our time goes so fast. We are up at our time. So, Craig, I always try to end these business transition roadmaps with one thought that you would like to leave with our audience today, just to remember as they navigate their business transition.
Yeah, I mean, I think just remember that this is a process that you're going through. It's not an easy process. It's not a quick process. It's a process that you can make your own and make it successful if you have the right people around you, and you do look at it as a process by which you have planned, by which you realize that there is a timeline to it. And then you talk to the right people. I think that's so important. There's so many people out there that want to buy your business, that say they want to buy your business. Make sure you have good people around you. Make sure you're talking to your leadership team. Make sure you're talking to your family members about what the next step is. And you talk to folks like us. And I think that's the most important thing.
Absolutely. Well, Craig, thank you for that. That's very, very well said. And personally, and I know Andrea also, we're looking forward to our partnership with you and your company. And just for our listeners, just keep posted on our content that we're pushing out, because we'll keep you up to date on things that are going on with AI Exit Navigator and the partnership that we've got going together. So anyway, Craig, thank you, and be well.
Thanks, Elizabeth. It was a joy, and I too am really looking forward to our partnership. So yeah, keep tuned for the kind of content that we'll be putting out here as a team, and yeah, it's going to be fun.
So, Craig, again, thanks for being here. And if you're interested in finding out more about Craig and the AI Exit Navigator, check at the end of this podcast, and all of the information is going to be there. So you can just click on that link and it'll take you right to their website.